On the 2nd of October, the Home Office posted a message with a picture, Blessed Yom Kippur, alongside apples and honey, a 7-branch menorah, and a shofar, an assemblage that conflated Rosh Hashanah with Yom Kippur and signalled thin cultural literacy. Yom Kippur is marked by fasting, by prayer, by repentance, and the wish for a peaceful day, not festive foods. The timing made it worse. Within the hour, worshippers at Heathton Park Hebrew congregation in Manchester faced a deadly attack. 2 congregants were killed, and police later confirmed 1 death was caused by an accidental police shot while stopping the attacker. Senior figures condemned the violence and promised security, but the communications error undercut the message of care. It looked like a pictured desk pastiche, not an act of informed respect. And call it what it is, institutional religious illiteracy. And if the state cannot differentiate the symbols of Judaism's holiest fast from the foods of the new year, it should not be surprised when public trust frays. This isn't a one-off. For at least 2 decades, religious education has been allowed to atrophy, legally compulsory yet practically marginal in many schools. Ofsted has said too many pupils receive RE of poor quality, often not fit for purpose, leaving them ill-equipped for a complex multi-religious and multi-secular society. Non-examined RE is especially weak, and a notable share of schools are not even meeting the statutory duty to teach RE at all stages. Religious education seems to me, it is my subject by the way, religious education seems to me to be a way to understand the cultural diversity of our country. And it's also, I think, fascinating. But the causes of our religious educational failure are structural. Policy signals are weak, exclusion from headline accountability measures, and the back incentivized timetable squeeze. Departments teach what is measured. Religious education is not. Local syllabuses, variable support and uneven funding mean patchwork provision and outdated schemes of work in some authorities across some areas of the country. And the teacher pipeline, chronic recruitment shortfalls and insufficient subject-specific training leave many classes taught by non-specialists. Bursaries have been stop-start in this system. And the content is shallow. The textbooks are appalling. Over-tidy caricatures. All Christians believe. All Muslims do. What utter trash. And museum case approaches that privilege visible artifacts over lived belief. Ofsted explicitly warns against compartmentalized, superficial treatment of traditions. The result, pupils learn rites of passage trivia, or a thin sampler of festivals rather than the inner grammar of belief, texts, practices, authority, dispute, minority traditions, and change over time. The Home Office post is simply the state mirroring the classroom, the state showing what little education it has received. Why this matters? It matters for security and cohesion. First, it's about public service competence. Ministers and departments routinely address faith communities, often in moments of grief, and competence requires basic literacy. What words are apt, what symbols belong, what the day means. This is not about piety, it's about precision care and legitimacy. Second, it's about civic reasoning. Our politics is saturated with questions that cross religion, ethics and law, from free speech and protest to bioethics. If religious education in schools is shallow, the public square becomes brittle. Ofsted's language is blunt because the downstream harms are real, and we're seeing them in this absurdity from the Home Office. Third, we need to counter ambient prejudice. When ignorance grows, lazy tropes flourish. After the Manchester attack, leaders condemned rising anti-Semitism and affirmed protection of Jewish life. And that commitment needs the ballast of education that treats Judaism and all traditions with depth rather than decoration. A high-quality religious education would look different to the rubbish that we are being offered at the moment, that children are being offered at the moment. We already have the scaffolding. The 2018 Commission on Religious Education proposed a national plan for religion and worldviews, a shift from festivals, scrapbooks to rigorous multidisciplinary study of both religious and non-religious worldviews, attentive to diversity within traditions and to lived experience. The RE Council followed with a 2023 national content standard to benchmark curricula and pedagogy. These are not abstractions, these are a practical blueprint, and the key features would be a worldviews framing, students examining how beliefs, practices and identities form coherent worldviews, including internal debate and minority currents, rather than memorizing festival lists. There should be disciplinary lenses, theology, textual studies, history, philosophy and social sciences. These are all part of the sense of traditions and their development. And I think particularly we should be mindful of the role that the biblical scriptures have played in defining our civilization in Britain. Without a basic understanding of biblical texts, it is almost impossible to read and appreciate Shakespeare, Milton, and a good deal, actually, of Victorian poetry, like Tennyson, for example. You lose the nuance. National syllabuses should be taught with local texture. The synagogue, the gurdwara, the church, the mandir down the road, and the diversity within them, the access to these sites of religious practice, the Orthodox Church, the age-appropriate encounters with complexity, disagreement about canon law or halakha, the Sunni Shia debate, the Catholic Orthodox differences, the Reform Orthodox debates, and the interactions between faith and secular law. I think there are 5 concrete plans. There's a repair plan with 5 concrete moves that we can adopt. The government should endorse a clear national entitlement, drawing directly on core and the RE Council standard, and require schools to publish how they meet it. This addresses Ofsted's call for clarity on breadth and depth. We need to stabilise bursaries for REITT, expand subject knowledge enhancement, and create regional hubs that pair schools with university departments and local communities. Ofsted's diagnosis is unambiguous. Quality follows expertise and time. We need better textbooks. We need to fix the accountability signals. If you want time on the timetable, measure what matters. Build RE indicators into inspection conversations, and publish compliance with the statutory duty to teach RE post 14. What gets inspected gets taught. And back a curated library of model units aligned to the national content standard, texts, case studies, assessment tasks, with explicit treatment of intra-traditional diversity and lived practice. Oak's materials can help if they meet rigorous standards and are co-produced with faith and academic partners. We need to mandate a simple internal rule. Any official religious calendar post must be signed off by a subject literate editor and or a community liaison, and it takes one phone call to avoid the apples and honey on a fast day. The cost is negligible. The dignity returns immediately. It's simply a matter of doing the work. So I'm using now the Home Office image pretty well as a classroom diagnostic. Here's the prompt. Identify which items fit Rosh Hashanah and which items fit Yom Kippur. The textual anchor here, Leviticus 16 and 23 on Yom Kippur, Maimonides on Teshuvah, return. Modern liturgy excerpts, particularly a recording of Kol Nidre. The concepts that are appropriate of atonement, repentance, fasting, communal solidarity, post-temple practice, the lived experience, the variations in observance across Orthodox, conservative and Reform communities, local security realities of synagogues today, and civic words, words like peaceful rather than blessed, matter on a fast marked by solemnity. That single lesson develops textual literacy, conceptual clarity, intra-Jewish diversity, civic sensibility, the opposite of the post's illiterate collage. Religious literacy is not a luxury subject. It's a public good. It improves policy communications. It sharpens pupils' ethical reasoning. It thickens social trust. Ofsted has told us exactly what is wrong. The Commission on RE and the RE Council have told us how to put it right. The Home Office's error is not a Twitter story, it's a syllabus story, it's a demonstration of how wrong this has gone for the last 20 years. Fix the syllabus, reduce the errors. If we want fewer cheap gestures and more truthful solidarity, we need to replace rite of passage RE with a rigorous study of religion and worldviews. Start with a national entitlement, train the specialists, resource the classrooms, and require basic competence of every public body that speaks in our name. It is not about instruction. It is about understanding communities. It's about understanding diversity. It's about understanding what drives individuals. It's not about a single creed. It's not about conversion. It's about many cultures in one country, and it is long